Hey, what's up, everybody? VDL 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I'm not really sure if I trust the source of this particular rumor, but it does give us something to talk about, and I like talking about things, especially in the offseason when it's not a whole lot to talk about. And of course, it's the playoffs right now, but hey, we're not involved, so it's the offseason for the Lakers. I heard a rumor, Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler for Rui Hachimura, Austin Reaves, and a first-round pick. Potentially could be something that's being mulled over. If there's any truth to this rumor, I don't know if it's even a rumor necessarily, or just somebody just throwing stuff out of their head. But to be honest with you, I think it's an interesting trade because I really do think that the Los Angeles Lakers probably should move on from those two pieces if they can get back the pieces that better fit around Luka Don going forward. And I do think that, in a nutshell, Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler would be great additions to a Luka-built basketball team. Lauri Markkanen, 7-footer, can play some 3, play some 4, stretch the floor extremely well. All-star level player, can help you defensively with his length, rebound the ball very well, some athleticism to him. He has had some injuries here and there. Remember the elbow injury when he played for Chicago. But he's been fairly healthy on a Utah team that really hasn't been playing for much of anything. So I know he would love to be a part of a Los Angeles situation where he'd ultimately be catching corner 3-point shots and basically be left open in ways that he's never been before. So for me, I think that makes sense. And of course, you think about rim protection and how important that is for the LA Lakers. Walker Kessler being one of the better rim protectors, young guy, been on the Lakers' radar for a while. I think the Lakers should be interested. In the past, I would say no first-round picks, keep the pick out of it. But in this case, I just think that we're willing to move on from the pick. And Lauri Markkanen is a player that's worth that. Now, Austin Reaves probably raised his value if you want to exclude his performance in the playoffs, for which, you know, he had the toe injury that ultimately affected a lot. So you could say that he's raised his value to a point where maybe you want to kind of negotiate a little bit more, see if you can get a little more back or take the pick off the table. But I don't think that Austin, in our situation, is as valuable going forward as Lauri potentially could be. And I think Lauri has a higher cachet in this league, probably worth a little more right now. So he's got to be respectful of that, even though I do think Austin can continue to ascend in value and ultimately make that a little more negotiable, or whatever the word would be. So that's what I want to say. I just think that that's an interesting trade. I would still continue to shop, see if I can get better if possible, but understand that Lauri Markkanen is an all-star level player. I don't even think he's 29 years of age yet, and he really does fit our need for further spacing and bigger players. So that's why I think that the fit is extremely doable. I think it's a doable fit. I think it's an interesting trade. You know, I'm not certain like that would be something that Utah would want to do. I understand that the Utah Jazz have Danny Ainge running things, and Danny Ainge tends to run a hard bargain for the things that he have. So I don't know. That's what makes me think that this may not necessarily be true or realistic, just off the strength of Danny Ainge and his history of negotiating and what he's valued Markkanen and other players, what he's valued Kessler at. And it doesn't seem like he would think that Rui Hachimura, a first-round pick, and Austin Reaves would be enough of a return for those two pieces that he's valued really high. And so I'm not really sure about that. From a Lakers standpoint, you think you're getting back value for certain. But from a Jazz standpoint, I think that you're probably selling low on your pieces, even though I value Austin and Rui quite a bit. I think Austin and Rui can be great players for situations where they're given a bit more role. But I don't know that they would have that in Utah as well, especially Rui. I'm not really sure what kind of role he would have there. And I'm not certain Utah doesn't feel they have their back court of the future already in place with Collier and George. So I would be reluctant, especially with them still having lottery picks to bring in, reluctant to think that they just have the greatest role for Austin Reaves to continue on the path that he's been on. I think he would kind of be rendered a lesser role, or they would be moved as one of those high-level kids to a lesser role. Whatever the case may be, it will be a logjam. Not to mention that they still have Clarkson in place, Sexton in place. I don't know what's going on with those guys' contracts. Maybe they can move those guys if necessary. They probably would. But these are the type of things that make you wonder how much demand should Utah actually have on Austin Reeves in place of Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler? I just don't think it's too much based on my understanding of the Utah Jazz situation. And so I lean into the idea that that's pie in the sky for the Lakers. I lean into the idea that most people would tell the Lakers to pull the trigger on that rather quickly. So yeah, I don't think it's real. But it's still very interesting to me. I'm intrigued by it. As a fan of the Lakers, I definitely am. And as somebody who just doesn't think Luka the Don, Austin Reeves, and LeBron James should be asked to be in the same starting lineup anymore. As much as I like Austin, and I do like Austin a lot, you're not moving Bron and you're not moving Luka, so one has to go if you're following what it is that I think makes the most sense for your team. And we do have needs. You could use more shooting. You could use more rim protection. Those players could provide some of that, if not a lot of that, depending on what you think of Lauri Markkanen is somebody who can provide length at the rim. So it's getting rid of pieces that you don't best utilize and bringing in players of need that ultimately will help you kind of build around Luka the Don for the future. I like the timeline there, even though Lauri Markkanen is starting to get into a space where you would say he's in his prime. I still think that he would be a player that you can see playing with Luka for at least another 6 years at a very high level. And Walker Kessler's what, 21, 22 years old? So I feel great about bringing him in just in general. His price tag was a little much last year. But he's always been somebody the Lakers have wanted. And I think would fit right in with the unit. So, yeah, I mean, look, I'm an Austin fan, man. If I'm being completely honest with you, I don't really like any scenario moving on from Austin Reeves. But I understand that the way my team is going to be constructed going forward, if best utilized, we're probably asking him to be Manu Ginobili. You know, that's really what it comes down to. He and Luka as my backcourt is not good enough defensively, and with LeBron James' presence, they cancel each other out more so than I'd like them to offensively based on the presence of a defensive deficiency. If they were both plus defenders, I'd be like, cool, we live with it, it's great. But that they're both minus defenders, and they're going to be two guys that are on significant contracts, and I have still other needs in my starting lineup in my bench. Shallow team, Bron going to retire. I got to try to make roster moves that make sense for not only this upcoming year, but for the future. And so turning Austin, a redundant piece, so to speak, at this point, into pieces that you need makes sense. Now, I like the idea of having Rui Hachimura in general because I think he's such a good executing team player that can really hit high percentage shots at a consistent basis, still young enough to where he's ascending in value, and a big enough body to where he contributes to overall size advantages. Problem is, Rui ain't the brightest, to be honest, and at times its inefficiencies in that area tend to draw away from the team's overall aptitude. And you saw that at times, especially in the playoffs, where he would disappear a little bit, and some of his mistakes on the defensive end tend to kind of glare more than you would like them to. With us having other needs and him eating up so much of our cap, you probably would like to move him for a piece of need, or maybe a diversified amount of players that would allow for a bit more flexibility on your roster. And so that's really where I'm coming from. I'm not in love with the idea of moving a player that big who can execute that well, especially since you've seen the issues that the Lakers had against the Denver Nuggets a couple years back where we couldn't hit enough shots down the stretch because of inefficient players. You don't want to eat away at your efficiency, especially building around Luka the Don. But, again, based on how you construct it, it's probably in your best interest to try to make a little more sense of your roster going forward to build around Luka. So that's where I'm at with it. I like Austin. I like Rui. I like these players a lot. But the way that we're constructed around Luka the Don, are they the best pieces to have on such prominent contracts when you have needs? And I think the answer is no. So am I constructing this with my heart? Then I'm keeping the guys that I have that are growing in our uniform that we like. Am I constructing this around my mind and what I think can help us win a championship? Then I'm going to diversify a bit to put ourselves in a position to have more players that fit a need in the contracts that those players that are a bit redundant ultimately are in. So that's my take on this situation, man. I like the Lakers for whatever they decide to do, because like I said, my heart's wrapped up in keeping Rui and Austin and those guys. But do they fit around Luka the Don? Do you not have such glaring deficiencies. Now, here's something that we do need to address, though. We need our wing position to be a bit better. You're going to need your Max Christie type player in action, because if you can't defend wing players in this league right now, you can have all the rim protection and shooting players you want, you still going home. You got to have enough guys that can get around the perimeter and guard these lengthy Kevin Durant type dudes. So where are the Lakers getting that from? If they can't address that and they end up moving their most important pieces for pieces that they want to keep in place, you're still going to find yourself closing up one hole and opening up another one. So that's really what the Lakers have to be responsible for. Can you make sure you get your wing situation straightened out while simultaneously getting your situation going with your rim protection and stuff like that? And if the answer is no, then you don't need to be moving fan favorite players on good contracts just to lock yourself in this position to where you end up having holes anyway in your roster. So that's really my point of view, man. I like what we're doing. I like how this is shaping up. I think Lauri Markkanen can help us on the wing, but I don't think he's chasing around these dudes. I don't think he's keeping up with some of these guys that are going to be trying to take him off the dribble and stuff like that. These Brandon Ingram type players. You don't want him guarding those people. So you're going to have to find players that can do that, and I don't know how you're going to do that without using them, the ones that you're using in this trade, for that. So that's what we have to be responsible for. Do you bring back Taylor Hendricks in a trade like this? Is he developed enough to really help you in that way? That's something I'll probably be trying to do, though. BL44, thank you for watching.